Guys, it's Lost in Plot, and today we have for you the Disney Plus original series, Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's right, Star Wars fans, we're back. And this show is...
God.
Is it too much for you? Is it too much for you already?
I think it's too much for everyone.
Oh,
but let's get to it.
Oh, no, we've got a story to tell here. So we are picking up 10 years after the events of Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, where Obi-Wan Kenobi is on Tatooine watching over Luke Skywalker as he grows up.
And I actually like Revenge of the Sith. You know, everybody can bag on the prequels a lot, and you feel however you feel about them. Revenge of the Sith, for me, was a really good movie.
I enjoyed it too. There were some good story beats. Even before this episode even starts, they do a recap of the entire prequel trilogy, and you realize, yeah, there were some good story beats in those films. Say whatever else you want to say about them, but there were some good story beats. But what about here? What about Obi-Wan Kenobi in this first episode?
Well, there are no good story beats here, and all the characters have been flattened to cardboard. None of them are particularly compelling at all. You recognize them by name only, but even Obi-Wan himself has been reduced to little more than just kind of a husk going through the motions. I understand that's generally what they want you to think. The Jedi have been defeated. This is, the time of the Jedi is over. Obi-Wan is just a vestige of a bygone era at this point.
So the plot of this one is that Obi-Wan is in hiding for 10 years in Tatooine, and he suddenly has to come out of hiding because someone goes and kidnaps Princess Leia. So it's
in the first episode of your series.
Yes, in the first episode. That's the catalyst event for the entire season. So it's basically, is Obi-Wan going to come out of his exclusion here and become
his exile,
become a hero again, become a Jedi again? And my biggest problem with this episode and probably this entire series is there are no stakes. There are no stakes because we already know Princess Leia is not in danger. We already know that Obi-Wan's going to live to a ripe old age. So what are you trying to get me to care about? Exactly. Princess Leia as a little girl growing up on Alderaan? I don't care. So what? What's the big deal?
She got kidnapped by a red hot chili pepper. That's the big deal.
That's right.
Gotta do something about it.
The stakes are... They anticipate that the stakes are going to be, because you know the character, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he's such a beloved character, that there are stakes built in. So they're going to rely on other people's work and just use that to leverage for their new, pathetic, pointless story. Yeah, and that's what we get here. So stakes is the first big problem. The second big problem is pacing, because this entire episode...
What pacing?
You probably could have done in about 10 minutes. You probably could have knocked the whole thing out in 10 minutes. Instead, we're here for 50 minutes of just boredom. Boredom.
And they struggle to wrestle an interesting moment out of the entire show. I mean, it just drags along and drags along. I feel like I had visited Obi-Wan's cave 100 times before the episode.
I feel like you'd been there 10 years with him, because it was just slow. He's out in the desert. He's riding on the weird alien camel thing. And it just keeps going and going.
Yeah. And there's some decent story angles here that are going on. It's not all bad. I mean, you've got the Empire and you've got the Inquisitors who are hunting down the remaining scraps of the Jedis that have, are far aflung and scattered to the wind and in hiding. And then you've got, the Inquisitors who are basically, rounding them up or trying to find them. And that's all well and good for a foil. And I think there's an interesting angle there where it's just like, oh, okay, Obi-Wan's adventures as he's being pursued by these Jedi hunters from the Empire. That's an area where you can potentially get some decent storyline.
Potentially.
Some adventures, some set pieces or whatever. But, even that. I mean, the Grand Inquisitors are not the foil that you need for Obi-Wan. And one in particular is one of the most outright poorly cast that I think you could ever come up with. And that's Inquisitor Reva, who is basically just nothing but bad attitude, wears a chip on her shoulder, and is totally and thoroughly unconvincing in every single scene that she's in.
I think a lot of the characters fall into that category. This is very poorly written. It's an awful, awful script. And it's also really badly directed, too, and the acting performances are bad as well. And it's not bringing you anything significant and anything new to add to the canon of the Star Wars universe. Or even, like you said, this could be interesting, fertile ground to explore. There could be some good ideas here. There's not in this episode. This episode's not bringing
it's downright schmaltzy. And I'm not going to blame the actors. I'm going to blame the director more so than anyone, because there's not a compelling moment in the entire show. And a lot of it reeks of those kiddie shows from the 90s like Power Rangers. Like, it's that level of cringe at times. And it's not trying to be. It's trying to be its own thing. And it is just not getting there. And I think Star Wars fans have suffered long enough. I don't think they deserve another one of these.
They deserve a lot better. Ewan McGregor is back playing the role again. This is a beloved character that deserves much, much better than they've given it here. Now, this made headlines when they announced who was going to be directing it. I think the director is Deborah Chow, something like that, because Kathleen Kennedy is still on her feminist kick at this point. So way back when this went into production, that was like a big celebrated trumpet this, all the headlines. We got a woman directing this. A woman is directing it. It's going to be so amazing and great. I don't care who it is, as long as they love the character and are deeply invested into it and want to tell a great story.
And can do the job. This person is mismatched with this content. They cannot do the job.
It's
and the
resume
result is
padding.
a mediocre product.
It's resume padding. It's like, for the next thing, it's like, oh yeah, look at my resume. I directed that Star Wars show, Obi-Wan Kenobi. See that? I can do other things too. Hire me. Hire me. And that's all we're getting here. And Star Wars fans, like we said, deserve a lot better than this. It's incredibly boring. I'm sure people are still going to watch it, but I was bored to death with this first episode. I cannot possibly imagine trying to watch the second episode. And I'd really like it if they got someone that was deeply invested in the character, and I wish they had a much better script and any kind of story. Any kind of story.
Yeah, it's a real shame.
No story.
I was interested
There's
in this.
no story.
I was interested in the concept of the show. I was excited for it. I really wanted it to be good. And, you know, people who call themselves Star Wars fans, it's almost like a moniker that evokes pity these days. Like, can you have like a more self-hating, loathsome creature than someone who continually goes back to the Star Wars well to get fed this vile slop? I mean, good God. Like, they try so much, so many times you'd think that at least on accident makes something good, but it's all so thoroughly safe, so thoroughly mediocre, and devoid of any type of inspiration. It's a real shame. Star Wars fans deserve so much better for their devotion, for their care, their love, and their attention to this series, and they get crap like this. You're getting crapped on again.
That's totally correct, and we're not just here to bash Star Wars because we both really, really loved the original trilogy, and even the prequel trilogy, as we said, Revenge of the Sith, had its good story beats here, but everything since the Disney purchase has been trash, just garbage. I mean, maybe you find one film that they did in there that might have been okay or worthwhile, but it's not this either, so this is very much dead for me. I think it's just so pathetic, and you're standing on the shoulders of greatness, so this is a 2 out of 10 for me. It should have been much better. Boring, and fans deserve better.
Yeah, it's a 2 out of 10 for me, and it is dead. It's not coming back. This is a weak, pathetic attempt, and you have everything going for you. You've got the characters, you've got the lore, you've got all these things you can play with. Everything's in the sandbox, and you did nothing with it.
Nothing with it. So boring. That's all we got.
There it is, guys. If you've seen the first episode, the pilot episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you loved it, you hated it, please leave your comments down below. Like and subscribe. Check us out on Twitter, and we will see you all on the next one.